You are watching SHOUTcraft, your esports gateway drug, with myself, Total Biscuit. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to SHOUTcraft. My name is Total Biscuit, and we've got a fantastic match here on the Steps of War with Viperskwa in the green trunks playing Zerg versus Nas, who'll be playing Protoss in the blue trunks. So let's speed it up a little bit just to get past this initial part here. Nas, a new player in the lineup, not someone that we have had the pleasure of seeing before. Hopefully we'll get some entertainment out of him, as I am sure that we will. So up goes the pylon as per usual, nothing unusual in any description there whatsoever. He's going to have a look around, he's going to see what's going on, nothing in particular. He's going to see drones being built. This should surprise him. It's a shocking strategy. Nobody knows about the drones. Oh, well, maybe they do, whatever. Up goes the gateway, and the chrono boost on the Nexus as well, just to speed things along a bit, as well as an early assimilator. So evidently not going for a zealot-heavy strategy here to start with. Going to be looking to get a few sentries, most likely go early stalkers. Up goes the spawning pool for Viper. To be honest, there's not a massive amount of variety that you can really put into play as a Zerg player. There's a couple of things you can do. You can choose, instead of building drones, to build a spawning pool a lot earlier by sacrificing the building of drones. Now that, of course, means you can get Zerglings out a lot earlier, and you can use these Zerglings to rush. Since he's not doing that, we can expect a longer haul and indeed saner strategy. A lot of people object to the 6 or 7 pool, as it's called, simply because it can be considered somewhat cheesy. I would happen to agree with that. It's a rather risky move. There are some situations where it works, but others not. First circling is out for Viper, and if we have a look at the unit count right here, we can see that we are roughly equal. Quite a few more probes than drones, but then again, bear in mind that is not unusual. Every time the Zerg has to build a building, they have to also sacrifice a drone in order to do it. There's the hatchery going up right there, and since you can see, he's built a spawning pool as well as a couple of drones sacrificed. It's, again, no big surprise. Also, the fact that you can chrono boost with the Protoss player, which allows you to increase the speed of building, so you can increase the speed of your probes temporarily. A very early robotics facility going up for NAS there. That's quite unusual. Now, as to what we can expect from that, well, an early observer would be a sound plan that will allow him to have a look and see what Viper's planning, and, of course, respond accordingly. But that would also indicate that he might want to bring out an early Colossus for an early victory. Countering a Colossus at this stage in the game, of course, is very tricky indeed. In the meantime, Viper decides to get a little bit aggressive. He's heading off for those 6 Zerglings. He's going to see what's going on. Whether or not he's going to find anything other than death and destruction, well, that is a different matter entirely. Of course, he does not know that. He's had a look with his Overlord, so he is familiar with what is in store for him. There's that robotics facility. Now, with a robotics bay, which he hasn't got yet, he could get the Colossi, but he may also be thinking about an early Immortal. Now, as to why you would do that against early Zerg, well, it's reasonable against roaches, but not so much against Zerglings. Indeed, the shield on the Immortal allows for the countering of units that do big hits. Vipers doesn't really want to go in there. 6 Zerglings, indeed, versus 4 Zealots. Not really the best matchup of all time. Also notice that Nas has got a few supply problems there. He's actually managed to block his supply. And no, indeed, yes, it is far too early to get out that Immortal at the moment. In the meantime, let's have a look at what Viper's doing. He's got his expansion out, and he's going to be able to exploit that economic advantage. We have a look at his income right now. Viper is indeed ahead slightly, and will continue to do so. His harvest is rapidly coming out as quickly as possible, and he's also going to put a few roaches in play. Roaches are very nice indeed against Zealots. They are, of course, a ranged unit, very nice against light biological opponents. The Zealot is certainly one of those. In the meantime, those Zerglings are just going to have to camp out. But Nas is going to try and take the fight to him, so we'll see what happens here. To be honest, I back those Zerglings off if he's got any sense, and he does. Now, he's only got 1 ranged unit, so the Zerglings aren't really in any particular risk at the moment. Goes the first expansion, and there's the first Immortal. Now, Immortals do hit very, very hard indeed. They've got a +30 bonus against armor. They are absolutely fantastic against things like siege tanks And they're pretty good against roaches as well, also an armored unit, and he's going for it right now. He is going to try and focus on those roaches. Hasn't got the opportunity to do so. Pops up those force fields there just to try and hold the roaches back, doing so in a very good way. Almost caught them there. He's got additional roaches there ready to go, and Nass is not going to let up with that. To be honest, the biggest threat right here is that Immortal. He's got to do something to it, and that's exactly what he's doing. You can see the hardened shield flaring there as the roaches desperately try and bring them down, and they manage it, but he doesn't want to engage. There's just too much potential for loss right there. It's a good, solid, early scouting force. That said, with the expensive loss of an Immortal early game, he wouldn't want that to happen. He's got to keep them backed off. He doesn't want to take the risk, let that shield recharge, and now he's got second Immortal and a few Stalkers as well. Stalkers are also fine against roaches. They have +4 bonus against armored. They're nice and resilient. Nice thing about Stalkers, of course, is you can have an awful lot more of them, and they are not as intensive on the Vespene gas spending. That's something you've got to bear in mind. Now, if you look at the economy right now, you can see very obviously Viper streaming ahead in terms of minerals in, roughly equal on gas. Again, no surprises there. Viper will have the potential to get slightly ahead once he's able to pop out a few more drones and start mining the gas from his first expansion. Already popping up a second there in the corner. Now, if we have a look at technology, we'll have a look and see what's going on there. Nothing particularly for Nass. He's happy with that mix, and I don't blame him. He's going to try and build up as much of his economy as possible, develop that natural expansion there. In the meantime, Viper is pumping out plenty of units as well, and big force coming in there. That's a lot of Zerglings, Speedlings, in fact. That'll help him close the distance quite nicely. Now, the question is whether or not they're going to end up being blocked in by those force fields and negated. But that's also a very good force of roaches. Let's have a look at the army composition. We can see right here, we've got 26 Zerglings and 12 roaches. That is good firepower. I would rate Viper in this fight if he's able to get in there. In the meantime, let's have a look at the defensive line. Rapidly warping in far more sentries there. Now, the Guardian shield that they can put up will be able to reduce the incoming roach damage, and the really vital point is the force field. The force field might be able to block the Speedlings in there and lock them down so they can be taken out in short order. Firepower-wise, he's looking at range damage from his sentries, his immortals, and his stalkers. And as he continues to warp in there, he's not going to hang around. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. He's getting it on right there. A couple of Zerglings annihilated, and Viper's not fancying his chances. That is a nasty ball of death right there. It's a lot of ranged firepower, good meat shield at the front, and, of course, the option of the Guardian shield to reduce that incoming damage. Viper really going all out with the roaches. 21 now. You can't really blame him. It's a good, solid unit. It's good against pretty much everything there in one way or another. It's not exceptional, though. That's something you've got to bear in mind. You're always going to lose if you've got a big ball of one unit versus a nice mixture, particularly if that player knows what he's doing and he can micro correctly. Now, in the meantime, I think what Viper really has to do is use the mobility of his forces to avoid the slower Protoss player engaged in his own terms. You can see right there, incoming the roaches, a nasty catch there. But you've got Speedlings coming in from the rear, trying to desperately focus down on those Immortals. Managed to block the Immortals in there. Very nice indeed. Big roach casualties, unfortunately. He wants to nail down those Immortals. They're extremely expensive. 2 on low health already. The Guardian shield have really reduced that damage, and very little done to the Protoss player, to be quite honest. Lost quite a few Zealots there. Stalker, but to be honest, he came off very well there indeed, acquitting himself adequately, and Viper now lost 55 units total, 3,000 total resources. That's almost twice as many as the Protoss player. The Protoss player is going to push on. He's going to go for that expansion. There is nothing to defend it right now, and that is going to be a real problem for Viper. The question is Viper going to be able to counter it? Well, if we have a look at the units right now, we'll see if he's got something desperately streaming up. Well, not really. He's moving in those Overlords in a desperate hope that they might decide to, hey, just shoot at those instead. But, of course, that's not going to happen. Down it goes, ladies and gentlemen. That's putting out some more Speedlings, and he has switched over to Hydralisks now, who are also rather effective. He's moving in with those. He's going to get aggressive. He's going after the Immortal. Ripped it apart, so he's managed to cut off the reinforcements there. And the Protoss is going to have to back off. And to be honest, with the Hydralisks now in play, I would say that those Immortals are going to go down way faster. The armored units take a lot extra damage from the Immortals, but Hydralisks don't. And you can see the effectiveness of the firepower there, ripping apart one of the Immortals. Hydralisks being taken down from the rear. They're pretty much stuck there. It's a good investment, but nonetheless, that's big losses right there. He went for the other Immortal with the remaining Speedlings, but that's not going to happen either. Nass is not letting up at all. He's going to go for the natural expansion of Viper, but Viper has got a line of defense there. He's got a couple of Spine Crawlers, couple of Queens as well. That is going to give him a little bit of an advantage. Hopefully just hold him off long enough to pump out some more Hydralisks, which is exactly what he's doing right now. He's going to have to focus on those Immortals. He's going to have to bring them down as quickly as he can. Now, the Stalkers are a threat, no doubt about that, but they are less of a threat than the Immortals. They are also less costly. Now, if you're going to go for Hydralisks, bear in mind they are light armored units, so the Immortals don't do as much damage, the Stalkers don't do as much damage, but to be honest, you've got to get an awful lot of them to bring down a force of that size. Now, of course, the advantage that the Protoss player has, he's got those shields. He can throw up a Guardian Shield, he can take a big chunk out of the damage available to Viper with the Hydralisks. Not really enough Speedlings there as a meat shield, but he's building an awful lot more. And Nass going in again. Aggression from Nass. Very good indeed. Often a mistake that a lot of Protoss players make. They hang back and they let the Zerg mass. That's always a bad idea. Indeed, as a Terran player, I do that from time to time, and I generally get my ass kicked as a result. Nass going in, getting so aggressive right now. Those Spine Crawlers are down, so he doesn't really have anything to help him defend. He's just going to have to rely on the Hydralisks. Speedlings taking the initial brunt of the fire. Focusing fire right now. We're going to have a look and see what they're doing damage to. Trying to take down the sentries now. Trying to split in the fire. Focusing now on the Stalker. Bringing down the Immortal. The Immortal's going to have to run back. Now, here's the big problem right now. The Zerg player is going to be able to outrun the Protoss. The Protoss can't back off. He knows it. And huge losses there for Nass. Very unpleasant indeed. That was a very nice comeback there from Viper. Now the question is, can he regain the momentum? Now if we have a look at the technology he's got going on right now, the Hydralisks are his trump card at the moment. The question is the Protoss player going to do anything about it? Well, answer is yes. One High Templar already out, as you can see on the unit counter right there. Yes, indeed. That will work. The High Templars will be able to drop that Psy Storm, which absolutely shreds. But an unusual decision there, going for an Archon, which is not something we usually see. Usually what you do with a High Templar is you'll throw down the Psy Storm, you'll do as much damage as you can. Very effective against nice big blobs of Hydralisks. But in this case, he's decided to get an Archon. Just the one, admittedly. Now, it's interesting to see. We don't see Archons all that often. Let's see how effective it really is. Now, the Archon does extra damage against biological units, so it will shred Hydralisks, but just one. I am not convinced as to the effectiveness of that. They've got big shields, but barely no hit points at all. Now, I would imagine under massed fire, an Archon will fall down quite nasty. He's backing off. He's looking for expansions. He's not finding any. Viper massing those Hydralisks. And they're going to get storms dropped on them at this rate. He's already got 3 High Templar. If you look at the hit points, a Hydralisk only has 80. Psy Storm, as I recall, is about 75. So, oh no, indeed, it will actually cause 80 to all of it if they stay in the storm for the full duration. So yes, that will rip up the Hydralisks. Nice play by both players, to be quite honest. They know exactly what they're doing. They are well aware of the different counters in play. And it's a shame that Viper hasn't spotted those High Templars, because I think he's going to meet some real pain right now if he decides to go in there and walls into an absolute maelstrom of psionic death. He's going to go for the expansion. He's going to try and catch the Protoss player out of position. A couple of those photon cannons aren't going to make much of a difference against that many Hydras. They're going to be torn apart like paper, as you can see right there. And down they go. Protoss player desperately trying to move in from the rear. You can see it on the minimap down there. Is it going to make a difference? Is he going to be able to kill it? Yes, by the looks of it, he's going to be able to. Protoss player just doesn't have the mobility. Charging in from the rear right there. Down it goes. And here comes the reckoning right now. We're going to see those Psy Storms. We're going to see that Archon in play. There goes the Psy Storm. Oh, absolute massacre. A brutal evisceration of the Terran, no, Zerg player right there. Oh, yes, Terran player. Yeah, that reminds me of the amount of times that I die to Psy Storms. Yes, it's imprinted on my psychology. Yes, indeed, you can call that a good save if you like, whatever the case. Now, very nice comeback there from the Protoss player, but unfortunately ended up losing expansion. So right now we are 1 for 1. 1 down for Viper, 1 down for the Protoss player. This is going to be an elongated fight at this rate. I do not see any of them giving up any time soon. Now, in terms of technology, I would expect to see Viper switch it up just a little bit right now, or at least use some Speedlings at the front to hopefully absorb the initial brunt of those Psy Storms. He's moving in right now. He's got an Archon. He doesn't have the High Templar anymore. He's expended the energy. Here we go. There goes that meat shield of Speedlings, trying to take up as much fire as possible. Hydra is focusing fire on the Immortals, bringing them down in short order. He's split his fire just a little bit, trying to take him out, and a very successful effort indeed. Losing quite a few Hydralisks, but those expensive Immortals. Archon just absolutely annihilated there, just jumped down the throat of that thing. Not good at all. Now, we've got another expansion going for Viper, but it's taking an awful lot of heat from that small group of Zealots. And I would expect Viper to move in the Hydralisk, and that's exactly what he's going to do right now. Going to try and desperately stop that hatchery from going down. Is it going to happen? He's going to have to move in very quickly if he wants it. He's moved nicely around the side there. Come on, Viper, you're going to move in. I think he's just going to leave it be. Too late. Down it goes, ladies and gentlemen. Perhaps deciding to unleash the broodlings. I don't know. But whatever the case, he didn't have to lose that. He should have got a little bit more aggressive. I can understand that maybe he was a little bit gun-shy. Didn't want to lose any more Hydralisks, but let's be honest, you just lost an expansion. That ain't a good thing. So we're 2 for 1 on expansions right now with the Protoss leading. We have a look at the economy right now. Income is still roughly equal number of harvesters as well. So if we have a look at the army count, a lot of Hydralisks, a lot of Speedlings, and indeed the Protoss player on a significant disadvantage right now, both trying to batter the sides of that. There's going to be a side storm at the back there. A couple of Zerglings taken out there. Not too good at all. To be honest, that was a little bit of a waste. It was a nice move by Viper to keep the Hydralisks back so they weren't caught in that. They're absolutely swarming the Protoss right now at the back. Managed to save one of the side storms, took an absolutely massive chunk out of the Hydralisk. It's very good indeed, but it's a lossy fight on both sides, and that side storm really made the difference. Zealots and Immortals able to gut their way through the Hydralisks in short order as a result of that. Very well played. We've got additional Templars coming in, morphing those now useless High Templar together. If you're playing a really aggressive game, then you don't necessarily want to hang around and wait for the energy to come back, especially with the way Viper's playing right now. He's going in, he is battering himself against that defensive line. The thing is, that defensive line is strong. There's no doubt about it. To be honest, if I were the Zerg player right now, I'd be considering something a little bit more unconventional, maybe a drop or maybe a Nidus Worm in the back of the base. Just something to avoid running into that wall of death. It is costly. No one likes to lose units that way. We look at the units lost right now. Oh, wow, that is a lot of resource. 250 dead Zerg versus 93 dead Protoss. Almost 15,000 resources worth of troops lost by NAS, and more than 15,000 by the Zerg. They are really taking their toll, ladies and gentlemen. They're going to be counting the cost. There'll be a giant memorial at the end of this one, and it'll be very tall indeed for the number of names. Yes, indeed, Sid the Zergling and his brother Bob, they died in vain. And here we go once again, taking down the expansion. They don't like it, ladies and gentlemen. Backing off the Hydralisks as much as he can, trying to mic them away from those. Oh, not good. Not good at all. Back in a corner and annihilated by the Side Storm. Now, to be honest, I would expect to see a little bit of variety. That's exactly what we're getting right now. Mutalisks, he's switched his technology, and that's going to make the difference. He's able to catch the Protoss player out of position, taking a little bit of fire from those photon cannons. Bad choice of warping in those Zealots right there. He's got to take the photon cannons down or just get the hell away from them. Take out the mineral line, do some economic damage. Now, what's going to have to happen here with the Protoss players? He's going to have to switch around. He's going to have to get way more Stalkers than he did before, and of course, that allows the use of Hydralisks even more effectively. NAS not going to have it at all, running into a wall of Speedlings, slicing and dicing, and through they go. He's going to have to back the Speedlings off. He's going to try and delay them as much as he can, just try and do some damage with the Queen there as well. He's able to do it, but not without significant losses. Got a chase going on here as well. Nailing down the Immortal, dropping down the Side Storms, but nicely moved away. Very good indeed. Now, what's he going to do? Well, he's got an Archon. He's got a second one coming up. He's dropped the Side Storm once again, actually eating the damage to lure Viper into a false sense of security, then dropping it. Oh, nasty! Utterly brutal there by the Protoss player. Very well played indeed. Yes, he lost a couple of Immortals, but hey, he took out a big chunk of Mutalisks, and that's going to make a difference. What that allows him to do is come up with the counters. Now, the question is he going to be doing that? Well, he hasn't got any Stalkers as of yet, so it makes me wonder whether or not he thinks that his opponent might tech switch again. It is possible. Immortals brutalizing that expansion right there. And that Archon's going to die if those Mutalisks want any chance whatsoever. Going with the Speedlings as well, that'll make the difference. There we go. Those Immortals now incredibly vulnerable. Moving in additional Zealots just to make it a little bit more interesting, but he knows that's not a good idea. So many Mutalisks, it's just not worth losing it. Immortals absolutely brutalized there. He went in without the anti-air support. One Archon was not enough. Mutalisks going in yet again. Is he going to drop the Side Storms? Yes, he is, but Viper's wise to it right now. He managed to move away and target the rest of the High Templars, bringing them down. Very nice indeed. And that expansion's going to die again. It is trade for trade, ladies and gentlemen. They do not like it. And NAS giving up. That's it, ladies and gents. He's got nothing. His economy is brutalized. Good game. Very well played by both players. Absolutely fantastic play. Ladies and gentlemen, that was absolutely unbelievable. Oh, I'll have a look at the spending and just have a look at a little bit of a post-mortem here. Economy, Viper really had the advantage for the majority of the game there. Slight technology advantage by the Protoss player, but didn't make an awful lot of difference. When that tech switch happened, he did not have a response, and therein lay the problem. Not good at all. Now, to be honest, what would I have done in that situation? Maybe pumped out a lot more Stalkers, maybe even gone for some air of my own. But again, when you go so far down a path like this, when you dedicate yourself to this kind of thing, when you buy ground weapon upgrades, armor upgrades, shield upgrades, that kind of thing, you really want to push forward with that strategy and try and optimize it. But against the Mutalisks, he did not have a chance without a significant chunk of Stalkers. Thank you to Viper, and thank you to Nas for that absolutely fantastic presentation. My name has been TalktoLi. This has been another SHOUTcraft production. Check us out live on Saturdays at 5 PM British Standard Time, at 6 PM Central European Summer Time, or 12 PM Eastern on tinyurl.com/SHOUTcraft. Good night.